Atlantis, ancient story about a lost island. Is it a fiction, fairy tale, or does the legend have a true basis? Many articles have been written about Atlantis. Many expeditions have tried to find it, and people keep trying to find it again and again. Here's a picture from German version of Wikipedia. It shows some of the locations where people search for Atlantis. Each point represents one theory, and just imagine, it is not complete. In fact, there are many more theories. What does the mainstream science say about Atlantis? It is just Plato's fiction, no doubt. Plato should have been inspired by a real event, devastating eruption of the volcano Thera, today's island of Santorini. This event caused the collapse of Minoan culture on the island of Crete about 1500 BC. Honestly, this explanation seems very reasonable. So, why are so many people searching for an island which probably never existed? Some time ago, I came across another new theory, a new place to search again. So I asked myself, how is it possible that people have so different opinion about where to search for Atlantis? Is it not possible to limit the area of Atlantis location? We have just one source of information, Plato's dialogues Timaeus and Critias. I can recommend get your copy and read it. Read carefully and make your own opinion about Atlantis. My copy is a free ebook by Project Gutenberg. First of the dialogues is Timaeus. Its participants are Socrates, Timaeus, Hermocrates, and Critias. The story is told by Critias, who has learned it from his grandfather, who heard it from Solon. Critias starts.
Then listen, Socrates, to a tale which, though strange, is certainly true, having been attested by Solon, who was the wisest of the 7 sages.
Solon brought the tale with him from Egypt.
Solon was received there with great honor. He asked the priests who were most skillful in such matters about antiquity, and made the discovery that neither he nor any other Hellene knew anything worth mentioning about the times of old.
According to ancient Greek chronicles, Solon really visited Egypt, was received there by Pharaoh Amasis II, who has introduced Solon to high priest Xenophis of Heliopolis and Sonches of Sais. Egyptian priest explains.
There have been, and will be again, many destructions of mankind rising out of many causes. The greatest have been brought about by the agencies of fire and water, and other lesser ones by innumerable other causes. There is a story, which even you have preserved, that once upon a time, Phaeton, the son of Helios, having yoked the steeds in his father's chariot, because he was not able to drive them in the path of his father, burned up all that was upon the earth, and was himself destroyed by a thunderbolt. Now this has a form of a myth, but really signifies a declination of the bodies moving in the heavens around the earth, and a great conflagration of things upon the earth, which recurs after long intervals.
Here a little comment. In Plato's times, the general knowledge was that the earth is flat and objects falling from heaven on earth are sent by gods. There were philosophers who believed in round earth, but this was quite exceptional. Geocentric system has been presented by Plato's disciple Aristoteles much later after Plato's death. The priest continues.
The fact is that wherever the extremity of winter frost or summer sun does not prevent mankind exist, sometimes in greater, sometimes in lesser numbers, and whatever happened either in your country or in ours or in any other region of which we are informed, if there were any actions, noble or great, or in any other way remarkable, they have all been written down by us of old and preserved in our temples. Whereas, just when you and other nations are beginning to be provided with letters and the other requisites of civilized life, after the usual interval, the stream from heaven, like pestilence, comes pouring down and leaves only those of you who are destitute of letters and education, and so you have to begin all over again like children and know nothing of what happened in ancient times, either among us or among yourselves. As for those genealogies of yours which you just now recounted to us, Solon, they are no better than the tales of children. In the first place, you remember a single deluge only, but there were many previous ones.
The great event happened
9,000 years ago.
Here is the terminal station for mainstream science. In such distant past, no civilization could exist. It contradicts all scientific theories. Are we talking about science or about dogmas? It is a duty of science to question and examine. Here are some facts. Solon lived between 638 and 558 BC. It would mean that the big event would have to happen some 9,600 years BC. Is it impossible? Nonsense? What a surprise! It fits incredibly exactly to the time of transition from Pleistocene to Holocene. It is dated to 9640 BC. This transition was highly probably caused by an impact of an asteroid or comet. Deposits in boundary layers all over the world prove peak concentrations of platinum, high-temperature spherules, melt glass, and nanodiamonds. We can find the same composition of the boundary layer in the deposits 65 million years old, as an asteroid caused the end of dinosaurs. 2018 has been found a possible impact crater in northwest Greenland. It's 31 kilometers wide. It's called Hiawatha Glacier Crater. Probable impact time 9,700 years BC plus minus 200 years. End of Pleistocene is followed by mass extinction of megafauna in Eurasia and especially in North America. It also means the end of the last glacial period, or as it is commonly called, the Ice Age. The end of the glacial period was very quick. Some geologists suppose the glacial water was at the time largely melted and blocked by ice barriers. Once the barrier broke, the water could rush to the sea. The water destroyed all on the way, killed people and animals, and formed canyons all over the world. Exceptionally large volume of glacial water has caused dramatic rise of sea level. Highly probably was it accompanied by extremely high tsunami wave. If there was during the existence of modern humans a really big flood, it had to be on the transition from Pleistocene to Holocene. It very precisely corresponds with Plato's tale. Back to Plato's text.
For these histories tell of an almighty power which unprovoked made an expedition against the whole of Europe and Asia, and to which your city put an end. This power came forth out of the Atlantic Ocean, for in those days the Atlantic was navigable, and there was an island situated in front of the straits which are by you called the Pillars of Heracles. The island was larger than Libya and Asia put together, and was the way to other islands, and from there you might pass to the whole of the opposite continent which surrounded the true ocean. For this sea, which is within the Straits of Heracles, is only a harbor having a narrow entrance, but the other is a real sea, and the surrounding land may be most truly called a boundless continent.
Plato compares Mediterranean Sea to a harbor of the Atlantic Ocean. Can anyone deny it? The total area of Mediterranean Sea, including Aegean, Ionian, Adriatic, Tyrrhenian, Balearic Seas, is some 3% of the Atlantic Ocean. And on the opposite side, a boundless continent. We call it America. I would like to add that during the last glacial period, the continent was enclosed in the north and in the south by a thick ice sheet cover. It seems Plato's tales is accurate. The priest of Sais continues.
Now in this island of Atlantis there was a great and wonderful empire which had rule over the whole island and several others, and over parts of the continent, and furthermore, the men of Atlantis had subjected the part of Libya within the columns of Heracles as far as Egypt, and of Europe as far as Tyrrhenia.
Based on this description, I would say we can eliminate all theories placing Atlantis east of Greece. The mighty power came from the west. Back to the book.
But afterwards there occurred violent earthquakes and floods, and in a single day and night of misfortune, all your warlike men in a body sank into the earth, and the island of Atlantis in like manner disappeared in the depths of the sea. For which reason the sea in those parts is impassable and impenetrable, because there is a shoal of mud in the way, and this was caused by the subsidence of the island.
Here I must mention that the tectonic plate theory excludes that such large island could submerge, so quickly submerge. The mainstream science sees it as proof of non-existence of Atlantis. Wait a moment. Proof? It is not possible to prove non-existence. Non-existence can be disproved only. In the dialogue Critias, Plato describes the establishment of Atlantis.
Looking towards the sea, but in the center of the whole island, there was a plain which is said to have been the fairest of all plains and very fertile. Near the plain again, and also in the center of the island, at a distance of about 50 stadia, there was a mountain not very high on any side.
People who lived there had a daughter called Cleito.
Poseidon fell in love with her and had intercourse with her, and breaking the ground enclosed the hill in which she dwelt all around, making alternate zones of sea and land, larger and smaller, encircling one another. There were 2 of land and 3 of water, which he turned as with a lathe, each having its circumference equidistant every way from the center.
According to mainstream science, the island of Santorini inspired Plato. Here is it on satellite image by Google Earth. I let it to your own judgment how much it fits to Plato's description.
He also begot and brought up 5 pairs of twin male children, and dividing the island of Atlantis into 10 portions, he gave to the firstborn of the eldest pair his mother's dwelling and the surrounding allotment, which was the largest and best, and made him king over the rest. The others he made princes, and gave them rule over many men and a large territory. And he named them all. The eldest, who was the first king, he named Atlas, and after him the whole island and the ocean were called Atlantic. To his twin brother, who was born after him and obtained as his lot the extremity of the island towards the Pillars of Heracles, facing the country which is now called the region of Gades in that part of the world, He gave the name, which in the Hellenic language is Eumelus, in the language of the country which is named after him, Gadeiros.
Gades or Gadeiros is usually linked with southwest corner of today's Spain, especially to the region around the city of Cadiz. In such case, one extremity of the island had to face Iberian Peninsula. Another hints?
The island itself provided most of what was required by them for their uses of life. In the first place, they dug out of the earth whatever was to be found there, solid as well as fusile, and that which is now only a name and was then something more than a name. Orichalcum was dug out of the earth in many parts of the island, being more precious in those days than anything except gold.
First metals people knew and used was gold and silver. They used it to make jewelry. Much later, they learned other metals. First, probably copper. The copper time is called Chalcolith. It comes from Greek words chalkos, copper, and lithos, stone. Could orichalcum be copper ore? How is it possible that neither Greeks nor Egyptians knew what the word means? The logical explanation is that the word is much older than the knowledge of copper in these countries. Plato further mentions,
There were a great number of elephants in the island, for as there was provision for all other sorts of animals, both for those which live in lakes and marshes and the rivers, and also for those which live in mountains and on plains, so there was for the animal which is the largest and most voracious of all.
nowadays, elephants live free in Africa and South Asia. At the end of Pleistocene, elephants lived in Europe too, but it was a much smaller form of the giant. That time there lived the mammoths as well. Mammoths were about the same size as elephants, but I think people of that time would have different names for elephants and mammoths. It means we can eliminate all theories placing Atlantis to America. Elephants do not live and never lived in America. What do we have next?
Fruits having a hard rind, affording drinks and meals and ointments.
Does anything like this exist? Sure, coconut. At Plato's times, people who lived around the Mediterranean Sea did not know coconuts. It is proved that first of the region were the soldiers of Alexander the Great. They brought coconuts to Greece from the Indian campaign, more than 20 years after Plato's death. Coconut palms grow in tropics. They need warm and humid climate with a lot of sunshine. They do not tolerate low temperatures. This picture shows recent natural distribution of coconut. I think we shall move the expected location of Atlantic South at least to the Tropic of Cancer. It also means we can eliminate all theories locating Atlantis to Europe. Coconuts do not grow and never grew in Europe. Plato writes,
The country immediately about and surrounding the city was a level plain, itself surrounded by mountains which descended towards the sea. It was smooth and even, and of an oblong shape, extending in one direction 3,000 stadia, but across the center inland it was 2,000 stadia. This part of the island looked towards the south and was sheltered from the north. The surrounding mountains were celebrated for their number and size and beauty, far beyond any which still exist.
what measurement units did they use? One stadium was in Olympia 176 meters, in Attica 185 meters, in Persia 196 meters, and in Phoenicia and Egypt 209 meters. Let's simplify it to 200 meters. The main plain would measure some 600 to 400 kilometers, and the whole plain was sheltered from the north by mountains. First, we can eliminate all theories placing Atlantic to the southern hemisphere. The plain was sheltered from the north against the cold northern wind. In the southern hemisphere, it would need shelter from the south. According to the description, it was exceptionally a large island. Could such large island disappear? There is not one place on Earth where such large island could sink, even considering the sea level rise. Can we close the mystery now? Not yet. One sentence of Plato's text stuck in my head for a long time.
An island greater in extent than Libya in Asia, and when afterwards sunk by an earthquake, became an impassable barrier of mud to voyagers sailing from hence to any part of the ocean.
What does it mean? After the island destruction, it was not possible to pass the sea and reach the Atlantic Ocean. Did mud create an impassable barrier for thousands of years? I have only one logical explanation. The island was separated from a near continent by a shallow channel. One day, an apocalyptic tsunami wave washed the surface of the island into the sea. All people drowned, and debris, rocks, soil, and mud have buried the island and created a barrier to sail the sea. Here helped me an ad for FloodMapNet. It was this Algeria elevation map. The picture shows northwest corner of Africa. Top left, we can see the Strait of Gibraltar. Top right, we see Tunis and its salt lake. From top right to bottom left, there is a strip of land relatively close to the sea level. Could the channel lead this way? In the old days, North Africa was not a desert, it was green land. It started to dry out some 8,000 years BC. Sahara Desert expanded and took reign over the area. What the desert sand can do, ask people who live there. And what it can do in 10,000 years. I used FloodMap to analyze elevation in North Africa. The result shows this animation. Unbelievable! It shows northwest corner of Africa separated from the rest of the continent. Could there be the legendary island? Possible? Impossible? No. What we see is an island facing north Spain, or Gadeiros, reaching south to the tropics. In southern part of the island is a plain of oblong shape, measuring roughly 600 to 400 kilometers. The island is from the north sheltered by Atlas Mountains. East of the plain in today's Mali, there are salt mines. Caravans are transporting salt across Sahara Desert on routes which look like copying the former coastline. I think it is too much match with Plato's description. So I started to study satellite maps aiming to find some regular structures referring to possible human activity in the old times. To my surprise, I found the structure called the Eye of Africa or the Eye of the Sahara, a Richard structure in Mauritania. Slightly elliptical concentric shape, almost circles. Is it the sacred island of Atlantis? There is no known geological process which could be responsible for creating this structure. There are several theories. Unfortunately, none of them has been approved. All is just a theory without any evidence. How shall I finish my consideration? The story of Atlantis is a fairy tale. Here, I mean the story told by mainstream science. From the beginning, they reject the idea. Not only that, they are hiding and twisting facts. They take parts of the text from context, and on carefully selected fragments, they try to prove that Plato's text is just a fiction. Sure is, the earth was in its very old times affected by a flood of biblical masses. All nations all over the world tell the same story. These stories have been written down long before the volcano Terra erupted and caused the end of the Minoan culture. On the other hand, Plato's time setting incredibly exactly corresponds with the catastrophe which ended Pleistocene. There is no doubt Mediterranean Sea is just a harbor of Atlantic Ocean. And the ocean is bordered by a continent on the other side. We call it America. Plato's text is a window to our most ancient history. Many people are ignoring it. Others rush with bricks and mortar to wall up the window. Just few people dare to assume there was a highly developed civilization in the old times, before the Great Flood. I think the flood totally damaged and caused the end of that civilization. Just few people survived, and the knowledge with time and following smaller catastrophes disappeared. What did not damage the flood finished the sand from expanding Sahara Desert. Possible survivors of that area have left, and they probably moved to Egypt. After a very long time, the island disappeared, but did not sink. It became part of the African continent. I hope to open a discussion about Atlantis. I would like to get questions, and I will do my best to give reasonable answers. I think it's time to rewrite the history. So long, and hopefully see you later.